very dehydrated. But it turns out they ran a battery of tests, and I also tested positive for COVID-19, which blew me away. I was what they call asymptomatic. I didn't have any symptoms that, other classic symptoms. I didn't have flu-like symptoms. I didn't have shortness of breath. I didn't have difficulty breathing. I didn't have a cough. I didn't have a low-grade fever. I still don't have a fever. I didn't have a loss of smell or taste. Apparently, I just lost consciousness.
Yo, man, I think when we first heard this clip and saw this clip, we were all so alarmed and didn't know what to anticipate, what to expect. A lot of people saw the video clip of DL passing out on stage, and then soon afterwards, people were in a frantic and started hearing about what had happened. You heard these rumors, and then you heard this IG clip, man, and listening to my brother talk, I realized that I guess when you get sick, you get smarter, because he used words I never heard him use before, like they were in like a battery of tests. I'm asymptomatic, and it sounds like I experienced no symptoms. I was like, did he just turn into a doctor? Give it up for DL Hughley, man. This dude got smarter.
What up, Trey? What's up, man?
Yo, it's actually lit always. That's DL.
He is a doctor, though, Sway. Remember the last time we saw him in the studio, I told him that he saved my life because DL looked at me and said, girl, you got an eye ulcer. Go to the doctor. They're going to give you some steroids. Oh, yeah. Yo, Trace, Sway, I went to the optometrist. He put me up on that thing when you got to lay your forehead on it. He was like, oh, you have an eye ulcer. I was like, D.O. Hughley told me that. He said, the comedian? I said, yeah. He was like, what do you do? I was like, yo, it's a long story, but I couldn't even front. D.O. told me
I think he went to a lens crafters one day. He saw, he know.
He know what the hell he's doing, man. DL like Nostradamus. Tracy, you got a story? Shit, did he help you out?
I mean, listen, D.L. Hughley, in addition to being an eye doctor, D.L. Hughley can also be a therapist too, because the way he comes on our show and able to break down everyone's problems in Hollywood and put us on the straight and narrow path, DL is just skilled in many directions.
Oh shit, my man DL Hughley, man. Good to have you on
man?
the show.
Hey, thank y'all for your prayers, man. I really appreciate it. I never, it's a weird thing to wake up and then you got 35,000 requests. It was weird, man. I'm feeling a lot better. So
I saw you say you just woke up and you were just in a different place than where you collapsed. Do you feel how does that tinker with your sense of mortality, realizing that, man, that was all involuntary?
Well, you know what? To be honest, I knew that I was like I had been in Dallas the week before, right? So I had performed in Dallas, and I knew, like, when I got to Dallas, I left California to go to Dallas because, in California you can't perform. So I knew in order to perform, I had to go to a state where they don't give a fuck about their people. Like I said, you don't wear a mask. I'm dead. You can do whatever the fuck you want. So I knew. So when I went to Dallas and I performed, and then I got back, and then we did the TV show and the radio show, and then I flew out to do a Nashville, and I knew I was tired. So we had 12 shows lined up in Nashville. I did 2 of them on Tuesday, got up Thursday, got up, walked my dog that Friday morning, ran 5 miles. Was tired but cool. Then I did the first show, and between the second show, I was talking to some friends of mine, and I was like, why do I feel like I'm going to fucking pass out? And I wanted to tell the opening act to stretch so I could get some Gatorade or some water. But when I got on stage, I just went left, and luckily my man Derek Robles, my security guy, was there. Now, he's a great security guy, but a shitty shortstop, because look at the way he looked me, made me drop. So.
Yeah, dude, man. Dude, look like you just everything. He missed everything but your head. Like, he caught everything but your head. Like that.
Yo, he tried, though. It's just hard to prepare for that.
And that motherfucker wants a raise too. You must be out your goddamn mind.
Oh my gosh!
If I give you a raise, it's gonna be a catcher's bitch, you son of a bitch.
Because I was like, yo, he called him everything but your head. That's interesting what you say about Dallas, because we've been talking about how the rates have been rising in Arizona and Texas and people. And people was like, we had a caller today from Don from Boston that was arguing, man, the mask make no sense. Sway is stupid. I saw a scientific test on YouTube. What are your thoughts? That's a dumb
thing to say, and I'm gonna tell you something. It's because of that stupidity that a lot of people, and no uniform approach, that a lot of people are going to die, and a lot of people that are black and brown are going to die. Let's be clear. The first thing I said when I came to, when they told me that I had a COVID, and that I wasn't having any symptoms, and I wondered if I killed somebody. Like, you could literally kill somebody. Mm-hmm. And it's something I think about all the time. And when I got back, my son has it. Everybody at the radio station had it. So, not knowing and not paying attention and not knowing and not getting everybody tested is really endangering a lot of people, man. And it's not, fortunately, everybody's on the mend. Like my last day of quarantine is today, and everything's cool. But look at what's happening as a result, because we don't have a uniform approach at all. What happens in New York doesn't happen in Florida, doesn't happen in Oklahoma, doesn't happen in Dallas. There's no uniform approach. How are you a leader of men and women, and you won't even wear a mask? It's crazy that the same people who tell black people to comply are the very people who don't want to wear a mask. That's insane to me. Motherfucker, you'll wear a hood. A mask shouldn't be a problem. I don't get it at all. But people have all of these notions, and we have no uniform approach. Everything is ad hoc, and people are putting themselves in situations because they don't know. Everybody in the United States of America should be tested. Everybody should follow the protocols, because what's happening now is young people that are getting it, and the outcomes maybe aren't as mortal. People aren't as dying as much, but they're exposing a lot of. When I was in the hospital, man, the first thing they asked me when I was in the hospital in Nashville, they wheeled me down. Like when I was positive, they wheeled me down, and it had those yellow caution tapes on the door. And I was like, motherfucker, how far are we going down? And why is it so hot? Like, why are we going down so many floors?
Thought you was going to hell.
Right? I was like, and then she started asking me questions. She said, do you have a living trust? And I said, of course. And she said, is there anything you'd like to write down in case you're incapacitated? I said, what the fuck are you talking about? She said that, she's seen it go either way. She's seen it go where everything was cool and they got out, and sometimes they never left again. So it's not, that really was sobering to me, where somebody asked you a question like that, where just before you had been performing, kicking it, and then all of a sudden doing what you love, and all of a sudden somebody asking you, is there anything you like to say? I was like, whoa. So it's a real thing, but it's sad that so many people, because everybody now thinks they're a fucking doctor, and everybody goes to Google instead of experts. Some things are, and I think we live in a place now where truth is dead, and people can make up what they want, and so a lot of people are going to die as a result of that.
D.L. Hughley is here, man. I'm going to take some phone calls, and I also want to talk about the actual Netflix comedy special that they should be the new one that should be coming up soon after all of this you went through, and then should be one lined up.
We were going to shoot one in September, but I don't know that. We were going to shoot one in September. I was going to shoot another Netflix special in September, but it's another. I don't know how anything's the same after live performances are going to be different. So it's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while, right? Corey's on the line from Greensboro. Good morning, Corey.
What's
How
up,
you doing?
Corey?
Hey, Corey.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
What's up?
What up?
Yeah, we quarantined.
Hey, good. Hey, my question is, I know, it kind of answered my question already, but there's always the rumor that goes around. A lot of people are saying, hey, my sister or dad or somebody passed away, and they passed away from, pneumonia, but automatically the hospital gets a kickback to say that it was coronavirus related. And I just had this argument with a young lady yesterday. She said that her father had died. He died at home, and they wanted to say it was corona related. I guess what are your thoughts on that, and how do we kind of properly train people not to believe these rumors? Because I think with a lot of the rumors that are going around, it's what's putting us in a worse position that we should be.
Yeah, I think listening to ultimately any virus can, and if you say, for instance, I didn't pass out from the virus. I passed out, A, because I was dehydrated, and B, because when I was a kid, I used to have, a lot of kids have, black kids especially have heart murmurs. Remember, you have to get that note so you can play. So when you're dehydrated and you have that, it's kind of a double whammy. But there are a lot of people who might have diabetes. A lot of people might have respiratory. So the virus itself isn't what you get in trouble with. It exacerbates those conditions. So you didn't necessarily, they may not have died from that, but it predisposed them, whatever predisposition they had, it put them in a compromised position and it took them out. There's people that have had heart conditions that died from it. There's people that had lung conditions that died from it. There's people that had diabetes that died from it. Your body can't fight that virus off, and it kicks off this series of things. And especially a lot of black people, because of the environments that we live in, because they're dirtier than everywhere else, because of the food deserts, and we can't get fresh food and don't have access to, quality meats and vegetables and even healthcare, our outcomes are a lot worse than everybody else's.
So it's an accelerator for all the underlying conditions. So
yes, and the biggest underlying condition, even the Surgeon General, that dumbass dude that came out and said the thing about the Ebola, even he said yesterday, and Dr. Fauci said yesterday, our pre-existing condition is being black and racism, because doctors don't see. Do you know, literally, no one, when I got back to the hotel, the hotel kicked me out. Like, I'm talking about the hotel, like, we'd rather you not stay here. So I couldn't stay in the hotel. Like, they wanted me to leave. The airlines wouldn't let me fly. Private jet companies would take me. So I had to get, finally, somebody hooked me up with a private jet, and we got out. And then when I got here, no one would take me in the doctor. Anthony Anderson and George Lopez had to call the Nets doctor, who called the Lakers doctor, who got me into UCLA, and they had this infectious disease. So imagine if you don't have those kind of resources. That's why black and brown people are dying. That's why. And it literally, everybody, and now I'm part of a COVID study, so they're going to, test my blood, and if I have antibodies, I'm going to donate it to people, because to me, the fact that we don't have these kind of resources, even though, the body works the same pretty much, and if you're predisposed, but it's our outcomes are so different because of all the things that surround us being black, and all the things that surround inherent racism and bias. People should understand you can die literally because of the way people see you and believe things about. They believe that you're not as sick as you are, or that you can shrug it off, but that you don't feel pain like you do, or you don't need treatment, or you don't need. So all those things are really playing out in a very real way, and a lot of people are getting killed and hurt.
Corey, thank you for your call. You're a citizen.
Let's wait in the morning.
There's a lot of public backlash about the vaccine, and then the Gates family saying that, people of color should be the first to take the vaccine for COVID once it's developed and ready for public consumption. And folks don't trust them. They don't trust what's in that vaccine. What are your thoughts about it?
I think that there are reasons not to trust anything, but ultimately it is this. Nothing is not an answer. So I think that you can't not wear a mask because you don't trust that. You can't not socially distance because you don't trust that. You can't not seek treatment because you don't trust that. You can't not take a vaccine. So not is not an answer either. The bottom line is, if we're not going to do these things, if you're not, I have reticence to take whatever, because the bottom line is that it's on such a fast track. They're trying to do what they have to do out of expediency's sake. So, when somebody does something fast, they don't have to do it right or correctly. But and obviously they're going to, the medical history has taught us that we're the first ones that they use as guinea pigs. So I understand the reticence, but we can't not do anything. We can't just like you'll see large concentrations. They have a bar in Michigan where 100 people got it. 100 people.
Wow.
So we can't just pretend like nothing's happening because something is.
Yeah. Would you take it? Would you line up to take that
Well,
vaccine?
I take a flu shot every year. I was taking a flu shot because I travel so much.
Okay.
But I'd have to say it would depend on what company came up with it first and what their track record is. Like it would depend on whoever comes up with it first and how I feel about that particular pharmaceutical company and the study that was involved. And because I don't want them skipping steps to get to the market first. You know, sometimes to be first, you'll do a lot of stuff. But if they're doing all the protocols and they're taking all the tests and they have a fairly good reputation, then that would be different than somebody who just, I got this drug. No, it would be a lot of factors that play into it.
You know, D.L. Hughley is here, and when you're talking about the conditions that, you know, a lot of black and brown and people of color deal with in the environment, or whether it's food deserts, I don't know, it might be electrical lines that are known or have been correlated with cancer development, all these different things that happen in our community. And you got this book called, but that doesn't happen in other communities. Typically, when you look at the scales, you look at the surveys, you're not seeing this happen in predominantly white communities. And you got a new book called "Surrender, White People: Our Unconditional Terms for Peace." It's out now. And man, how you gonna get people to surrender that life? We live in the tale of two. It's like the tale of two countries. What I found out most, especially since Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, these tragedies, these atrocities that are taking place, I didn't even realize how much friends of mine who are white have no idea what the experience like growing up black in America, because they always at all the functions that's driven by black culture. But the divide is so crazy. It's like the tale of two countries.
It's more, you know, when I say surrender white people, it's surrender the notion of supremacy, surrender the idea that doesn't play out in people's lives, that the idea that it is impactful. And you're seeing people do it. Like when you see, and NASCAR has Black Lives Matter. NASCAR. Now, of course, that dude ain't going to never win because the police will keep pulling him over. But Ben and Jerry's has, you know, a Black Lives Matter ice cream. You got to open it with a Billy Club, but they still have one. You know, I think people now are. I think that because of what happened, the whole world was on lockdown. I think people saw the succession of horrible things between Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd happening once, and we were all home. And when you see young people, old people, black people, brown people, white people taking to the streets and really saying Black Lives Matter, when you see politics, I think they understand. When you read now that America is more tuned in and understands that, you know, 75% of Americans, black, white, whatever, believe that race is an inherent problem, you're seeing them start to understand how it's played out. Like, people don't understand how insidious it is. You like, George Floyd got killed in front of our very eyes, and people were rightfully appalled. And some of those people wanted justice done. But some of those same people who wanted George Floyd's killer to be prosecuted and to be punished, those same people will fight for monuments to men who did far worse to black people. Mm-hmm. There's a statue in New York, in Central Park, that's devoted to the father of modern gynecology. And what he did was he did surgery on enslaved black women with no anesthesia, and he got a statue. That we have monuments to men who did far worse, that we're fighting to keep. So you can't embrace this idea of who we're going to be when you want to be entrenched in who we were. I don't know, like what I can't understand is you think that a black woman on a pancake box is a testament to how far we've come, but you're more comfortable with a black woman on a pancake box than a black woman on a $20 bill. It's insane. So the notion that we cannot be what we want to be, we cannot ascend and hold on to the vestiges of who we once were. It'd be like if I was in a relationship and I've been very brutal to my woman and we decide to move on, but I keep the mementos of all the ass whoopings I handed out to her.
Yeah.
Like every time she turns around, it's a police report or bandages. Or, remember these stitches right here? How much would she trust me, and how far could that relationship grow? And I think that's the place America's at. So it's just, why are things the way they are? Black people don't have predispositions because we're inherently inferior. We have predispositions because of the places we are forced to live, because of the things we are forced to eat, because of the places that we're forced to go for help.
Yeah.
So it isn't, but this notion, if I'm superior, that means you're inferior, and that means whatever happens to you is some kind of destiny. Mm-hmm. And that's, so I wrote the book like a year and a half ago. I started writing that book a year and a half ago, but it became more relevant now. And it's really, really very funny. But the stakes, to me, are so much higher than they ever were.
Yeah. D.L. Hughley is here. Sway in the Morning, Shade 4-5. Tracy or Heather, y'all want to jump in? Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in this conversation. It's crazy because this book, which is about white people surrendering their supremacy, I immediately thought about Terry Crews on Twitter and how he's recently, receiving a lot of scrutiny for his comments about Black Lives Matter.
And he should.
Okay, so you've seen, just in case for citizens who may be unfamiliar, Terry Crews, he's been warning against Black supremacy. Yesterday, he tweeted, "If you are a child of God, you are my brother and sister. I have family of every race, creed, and ideology. We must ensure hashtag Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into hashtag Black Lives Better." So for you, DL, I'm wondering if you think Black supremacy is even a possibility in this society. And then two, because I know a couple of years back, y'all did have a clash of opinions when it came to Me Too that happened kind of publicly on Twitter, if you guys ever got to have a conversation offline.
Well, no, we never got to have a conversation offline. The things I'd like to say to this, one thing, America's always trying to make moral equivalence because, like, they'll say reverse racism, or they'll say you're racist. There's no moral equivalence to what's happened to black people in America. And Black Lives Matter isn't about being superior. It's about fighting for the right to exist. And the other thing that I find particularly appalling, we're a long way. I don't know how the fuck you get from their lives, even struggling to make your life even just matter, to worrying about us being superior. And anybody who gives credence to an idea like that is an enemy of progress. When you say dumb shit like that, I wish that you were as aggressive with the dude who touched your dick as you are with Black Lives Matter. It's fucking insane. And you give them credence. You make them comfortable. People are in there fighting for their lives and for their children's lives. And you say your biggest concern is that one day we'll be superior. Get the fuck out of here. I wish you raised your conscience like you raised them weight. It's fucking insane. And every time somebody says shit like that, it gives credence to the notion that what happens to they have to keep us down or we'll come back. Because really, what that's all about is really what happens to a lot of people is they're worried about black people wanting revenge. Mm-hmm. They're worried about black people, and you give credence to that notion. All anybody is asking for is the right to exist. Even the book that I wrote right now isn't about us being better. It is about you putting up your preconceived notions and letting us all be a part of this grand experiment. And any black man who takes the idea, and I've heard him say things like, "Oh, that's not what I meant," but two times contextually, he's basically waxed on about us being about becoming superior. Us wanting to be superior. I don't want young boys to get choked to death. I don't want them to not get the education they deserve. I don't want black women to die because of biases in medical facilities. I don't want our old people to be homeless because the system priced them out. I don't want people to be poor just because of the way that they're born. So before we get to being superior, how about being human? You motherfucker, you. That pisses me off so much, it's ridiculous. He done made my chest hurt, son of a bitch.
Man, breathe. Hold up, DL. Come on, man. Relax. Take a breath.
Do you think, DL, hey, this is Heather. Do you think that one day you and Terry will end up having to sit down? And I'm not talking about on camera. I'm just saying just some man-to-man shit. Y'all just need to sit down and have a conversation behind closed doors?
Here's the thing. First off, I'll talk to anybody about anything. But when you say things like that, the basis that we would have a conversation or what we would talk about is so far from removed. I don't understand why you insist on saying things that are antithetical to what's going on. Why do you insist on why are you consumed with the notion that black people are actually trying to be superior? That we're actually trying to do that? Why is that what registers to you? Why is that the biggest danger in your mind? Not the potential that we could actually have what the Constitution holds out for us, that America might actually keep its promise. Not the notion of that, but the idea that we'll want more, the idea that we'll want to do to them what they did to us, the idea that we want it to be superior and not just human. That you believe that, to me. How could I even talk to somebody that believes something that was that far off? What would I say to you? You to me, it's not even about my ego, how I feel. You're doing damage to human beings that I love. I don't want to see what I'm seeing. I don't want my son has Asperger's syndrome. What happened to that kid in Aurora, Illinois, that had on a mask and that they thought he was being a smart ass and they gave him a shot, they gave him a heart attack, and now he's dead? Breonna Taylor sleeping in her bed and she's dead. Ahmaud Arbery taking a jog and he's dead. And what you get out of that is us being superior. What the fuck could I talk to you about? What would I say to you? What is it that I could say to you that you would understand if after all that, what you see is that? That's insane to me.
Well, just to add in, because he wanted to give more clarity to his statements. He said, I'm saying if both black and whites don't continue to work together, bad attitudes and resentments can create a dangerous self-righteousness. And he's saying he's very adamant in saying that he's coming.
I think Terry Crews is a talented man, and I think he said some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard of a human being say. There is no moral equivalence. There's no yin for the yang. We are in this position right now because one group of people has decided that they were superior, and everything else. If we look at our original sin, everything that happens sequentially because of that has to go back to the beginning. All anybody wants is for a year ago, Black lives didn't even matter. It was a terrorist group. A year ago. A month to 3 months ago, before we saw what happened to George Floyd, you would never get people to say Black Lives Matter. You would never get them to talk about the fact that now we have, Juneteenth. You would never get them to talk about that there is racial bias. So from that, your extrapolation of that is that we're worried about it can be dangerous. Seeing people finally starting, what could be more human than starting to see other people that you believe to be inferior as human? What could be more human than that? And every time somebody says something insane, they always bring up God. They always bring up you're a child of Christ. Was I a child of Christ when you were when you were raping my woman? Was I a child of Christ when you were selling my kids? Was I a child of Christ when you were choking me in full public display? Was I a child of Christ when you were denying me an education? It can't be Jesus when it's just shit you like. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to get upset. I'm here to push a book, but this is we are at a moment in this country's history, a reconciliation that could potentially happen. And when you say things like that, you make them have an unrealistic fear of what the desire is. Do you want to be superior to anybody else? Is that really what you want? You just want equal. I don't want to be anything other than all I can be. And I wish that for everybody else. And that's everybody's goal. Because if it's fair, we ain't got no reason to be mad. The reason we mad because you know it ain't fair and I know it ain't fair, and then you pretend like it is. If your God has jaundiced you to the point that you believe that what you're saying, that you believe all of these things, that you believe that our goal is to lord over people and to be superior to them and to do with them what we've done what you do on the others as they've done to us, and you got it all wrong. And that's a deity or God I couldn't ascribe to.
Absolutely. D.L. Hughley, man. Get this man a round of applause, man. You selling the hell out of this book, bro.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what, Sway?
Hey, it's Surrender White People, Our Unconditional Terms for Peace. Hear that title, Our Unconditional Terms for Peace.
Wait, I didn't say
Unconditional.
we're suing for peace, not to take your shit. To say,
You don't want your life.
Not role playing. No role playing.
You don't want your life, your wife, your kids. Yeah.
Like I want, even when I remember when they found that noose hanging from Bubba Wallace's, hanging from in NASCAR, and they go, "Oh no, this is not a new noose. No, this is not a new one. What the fuck?"
They said it was it's been hanging since October of 2000.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, that explains it. Okay, we're fine. You got it. All right.
Yo, and then
this is a throwback noose. It's a throwback noose.
It's a retro noose. You get that.
Right.
By the way, the father of modern gynecology, the person you was talking about was J. Marion Sims, and that's and he wouldn't use anesthetics on black women because he believed the threshold for pain was higher than any other.
And do you know today? You know why black women have such a high mortality rate? Infant mortality, why they die in childbirth, why they die at a higher proportion, because even today, medical personnel, doctors, nurses, the pharmaceutical industries, they don't believe that black people feel pain. Mm-hmm. So when you say shit like, let's not worry about being black superiority, how about us just not dying because people think that we don't feel? How about that?
Mm-hmm. D.L. Hughley, man. Appreciate you, man. Hey, keep
All
coming
right, man,
on the
I love
show,
you, man.
Love you, too. Give him a round of applause. By the way, is the whole team on quarantine now? The whole radio team?
You know what?
Quarantine?
Here's the thing. My security guard didn't get it. My road manager didn't get it. But everybody at the radio station get it. My wife didn't get it, and my daughter didn't get it. But when I got home from Dallas, they wore masks. They was like, nigga, we don't trust you. We don't.
All right, man. Hey, DL, stay up, man. Stay safe.
Oh, for
stay
sure,
healthy.
man. And thank y'all for your prayers and your thoughts, man.
Yes, we love you,
man.
DL.
We love you, brother.
Love y'all
All
back.
right.